Alright, what's up guys? Universal Mastery. So in today's video, I'm going to go right into it. This is a topic that I'm very interested in myself, and I'm going to tell you what I know about it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think it's really cool, and it's 100% real. This is all real stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you. Very powerful stuff. And what I'm going to be going into is the lost city of Atlantis. So the first thing that I want to say is the lost city of Atlantis. So they say it's literally off the coast of the Bahamas. Okay, so let me go into the breakdown of what Atlantis is and what it was. Okay, so Atlantis was known to be one of the most technologically advanced civilizations there ever was in mankind. Meaning that they had so much knowledge and they had so much power. It was a place where they had things in the nature of teleportation. They had, the resources were out of this world. It was just like this whole other world. Okay, it was just this whole other world. There was still control structures, meaning how the government is today. That was still going on back in the lost city of Atlantis. And in the lost city of Atlantis, they also say that, there was other beings that were also integrating with each other. Meaning that, right now, I believe this to be true, and I know it's true. There are different beings that are on our Earth today. There are reptilians, there are Pleiadians, there's different types of beings, whether you know it, whether you're aware of it or you're not aware of it. They're out there. They may disguise themselves. They may not be in the eye of the public. They may be in underground tunnels, all those things, but they're here. But to my belief, back in the times of the lost city of Atlantis, back when it wasn't lost, these beings were open, they were out, they were interacting with the civilization. And if you didn't know this is just a little fun fact. All the knowledge that came from ancient Egypt, most of ancient Egypt, 95%, of what ancient Egypt was built off of the wisdom and knowledge from Atlantis. So that goes to show that Atlantis had a lot of power. There was a lot of wisdom there. There was so much going on there. But they say the reason why the lost city of Atlantis came to a crash, and why it ended up flooding, why it ended up ending up underwater, is because that they got to a point where they were so advanced technologically, with AI and things in that nature, that they started to lose touch of their own spirituality. So they say that this civilization was in touch with certain deities. They were in touch with certain gods. It was open, and these gods would grant instant power. They would literally grant you massive power. That's why they got advanced so fast. But they also say because of that, they didn't learn discipline. They didn't learn balance. They didn't learn as much as they could about spirituality because they got so indulged and consumed by their own advancement, their own technology, their own just physical human. I don't even want to say physical human. They just got so consumed with, what can we build? What can we create? What can we do? What can we do? They didn't take a step to really be what's the purpose for us to be here? They just started building and building and building, advancing, and they literally lost touch of wait, why are we here? What are we doing with the earth itself? Is there a purpose for Earth? Is there something that we should be doing with Earth rather than just advancing? And they say because, they were granted that power so quick that there was other beings, there was other people that were in that civilization that used that power and they abused it. They just used it for reasons that were just like petty, like things that were just literally like a waste of power. And eventually they got judged, meaning they got judged by other deities. There was other deities out there, okay? A big one is Hecate, Lilith, Lucifer, Belial. And they looked down on these people, this society, and were like, what's going on? Like, there's no purpose here. There's literally no purpose. It's just about technology, and that's it. There's no purpose. It's like people aren't really advancing and spiritually evolving the way they need to. They're not utilizing Earth properly. So because that society was judged and they weren't moving in the right direction, they weren't moving towards the evolution of Earth itself and Mother Nature and in their own evolution, their own spiritual evolution, it's almost like they got really out of touch with their spirituality just because it was handed to them. These beings cause certain circumstances and situations to then cause the flood, to cause a lot of water to flood the whole civilization of Atlantis. And very, very few people made it out of that. But the few people that did, that survived it, they were ascended masters. They were smart people. They had a lot of wisdom. But it was such a few number. It was such a few number of them that they weren't able to like rebuild everything. Meaning that like it's like they weren't able to take all that knowledge that they did have in that civilization and then be able to pass it all down, because there were so few of them, and they were just trying to restart civilization in a better direction. But you know, it didn't really work out too well, because you know, everything pretty much got wiped out. So it's like to create an analogy, it's like, you know, if the guy or if every single person who knows how to make iPhones right now just disappeared off this planet, we're not going to know how to make iPhones anymore. Like, if every single person knows how to make iPhones, and then the directions to making an iPhone just disappeared, we're no longer going to have iPhones. Like, we're going to have to restart that whole process and figure out how to remake them, which is going to take a long time. So it's basically like the same situation that happened with the lost city of Atlantis. So you know, they tried to restart the civilization. They tried to pass down the knowledge as best as they could, but you know, it took a long time, and it literally was basically like a reset. But you know, the interesting thing is now you can and that led to creating Egypt, because that was like the next thing that they started working towards, and that was ancient Egypt, was that new civilization. But it's interesting because like you know, even though it got wiped out, and this has happened many times before, this has all happened in cycles, like over a certain period of time, civilization has been wiped out many times before, many times. And there's something interesting about the age we're in now. And to get a little historical about it, they say that the flood, this is one of the beliefs, is that there used to be like this a couple miles long sheet of ice. It was like around the Ice Age, what they called to be the real Ice Age, where there was this like mile sheet of ice, like I don't know exactly like how many miles it was, but it was this huge sheet of ice. And because the Earth got into this warming phase, and then there was all these earthquakes and these tectonic shifts going on, it caused that ice to melt so quickly that it literally flooded the whole civilization. So it's interesting about the age that we're in now, because we don't have that anymore. We don't have that ice that would cause our civilization to flood. So that's a good sign. That means we're moving somewhere. And I think we're doing pretty good as a society, even though there's a lot of like bullshit that's going on. I think we're starting to break out of it for the most part. But that's pretty much, you know, what I want to share about, you know, the lost city of Atlantis and what I know about it so far. But what I do know is that there was a lot of smart people that were in that society, and you know, a lot of them have gone on to pass, and there you know, there was a lot of wisdom that, you know, would be very valuable if we could now have like the ability to transport, to do transportation, you know, just things in that nature. abilities to literally unlock certain genetic activations within our DNA to make us live longer, all things in that nature. They had that wisdom, but it got erased. But the cool thing is even though they have passed on now, it's been a long time, they're passed on, you can still contact them. That's where the spiritual side comes in. That's where, the occult comes in, where you can use magic to your advantage. You can contact them and they can teach you the keys. They can teach you these abilities to be able to gain that wisdom, to gain that power, to maybe even unlock them for you. Because it's that real, it's that power, but it's about what you allow to happen. It's about what you allow to believe. But that's pretty much what I want to talk about when it comes to the lost city of Atlantis, and just to kind of paint a picture that civilization really comes into play when it comes to our day-to-day society now, because there's a lot we can learn from Atlantis. And from my experience, when I started diving into like magic, right, like high levels of it, Atlantis spoke to me. Like, there were certain beings from Atlantis and certain goddesses and gods, and they were all leading me to studying about the lost city of Atlantis, meaning it's very important that we become conscious of what has happened in the past, so that we don't redo that cycle. We don't get too far away from our own spirituality for the technological age and that whole AI movement, which is what the government's trying to aim for. Not saying that we shouldn't get technologically involved, but making sure we balance it and not just go all in there and be like, that's the answer, and forget about our own spiritual evolution, because the spiritual evolution is literally just as important. You need to balance it. And then you have Egypt that came after that, and they got most of their knowledge and wisdom from Atlantis. And now we, in today's society, most of us look at Egypt like, oh, they were so advanced, but we don't pay too much mind to Atlantis and the powers that lie dormant in that knowledge and that wisdom. And just by studying the lost city of Atlantis, you then start to work with those entities, those spirits, those energies. They start to teach you things just because you're tuning into that current. Okay? It was really interesting. I'm going to tell you something interesting. On my Instagram, I would post pictures, and under the hashtag, I would put Atlantic Current. And I had no idea about the lost city of Atlantis. Like, I didn't know much about it. Like, barely anything about it. But I would post pictures, and intuitively, I just felt like writing Atlantic Current on my hashtags. Like, you can go on my Instagram, you can scroll down, you can check. And then about like a month or two after, that's when I started studying about Atlantis. It just came to me. It like came out of nowhere. And then I was like, that's so crazy, because before I even had all this wisdom and knew about what this city really was, I was posting about it. So there was something in me that knew about it and was beginning to lead me into that. And I do believe that, once you dive into that and you start, trying to uncover that knowledge, there's a certain form of, there's a certain current that you start working with, a certain, group of entities, a certain group of deities that start to work with you, and they start to initiate you through certain things, depending on what you want to learn from it, right? Like, if you want to learn how to change your DNA, if you want to learn that ancient wisdom and you ask for it, you can go straight to the source of these deities that have control over that had control over that civilization, and they can give that to you. So that's basically what I want to leave this video at. That's kind of just a little basis of the lost city of Atlantis. Other than that, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell, because I'm trying to post videos every single day, and eventually I'm going to be posting 2 videos a day. And check out my link down below for my merch. I have shirts with ancient symbols of power. Literally, they are ancient symbols of power. So when you stare at them, when you gaze at them, they can literally channel certain types of energies, and you can harness those energies and use them for whatever you want. So it's a very unique thing. Not too many people are doing that. So go and check that out. Other than that, feel free to engage with me in the comments. Feel free to add me on Instagram if you have any questions. And then I'm going to leave it there. So I love you guys, and peace.